Welcome to another exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. My guest today is a Galactic Ashka reader, psychic medium, healer, and is on his path to spiritual service and has been anything but conventional. He's also been a U.S. Marine, then a D.C. police officer, and later a filmmaker. Please welcome in John Knapp. John, how you doing today, bud?
Good, Pete. Thanks for having me.
Brother, that is a resume to say the least, man. All the way from Marine to filmmaker. God damn, dude, you've done everything.
Yeah. I like to say sometimes that I actually have had a few past lives within this life itself.
Yeah, it's funny you say past lives, though. I'm interested in that topic itself. But you want to go ahead and give me a little bit of more background about yourself, and then we can jump into that conversation?
Sure. So, I don't know, where do you want me to start with
Wherever
that?
you like, man. You've got a lot, man. U.S. Marine all the way down to filmmaker. I mean, you could give us just a brief run over of it, you know.
Yeah.
How long were you a Marine, by the way?
I was in the Marines for 6 years.
So did you see combat at all or any of that kind of stuff?
I did. In 2005, I was in Iraq.
Jesus, man.
Yeah. And even had some psychic experiences there while I was in Iraq. So, it's been a crazy life, and I think I'm like halfway through it so far. So, I've always been psychic. I've always known it. When I was about 5 years old, I experienced the first death in my family. My great-grandfather was 105. He passed away. And within maybe, a month or so, a few weeks after his passing, he actually came to me in a dream and was trying to communicate with me. And he's an Italian off the boat, and he spoke all with his hands. And he couldn't really communicate very well in real life. Like, he couldn't really speak English. So he was trying to communicate with me through his hands, and I just don't understand what was going on. Because I was like the first, ghost to come to me. And then as family members passed away as I got older, they would still come to me with messages, saying that they're okay, they're not in pain. Hey, send a message to this person for me. And so I started to understand that I was receiving messages from past loved ones.
So was that weird to you, though, when that started happening? Like, I know it's an interesting experience when you start having people talk to you, and then you're like, wait a minute, is this real, or am I making this up? Because, at first, it had to feel like, you're like, wait a minute, whoa, what are these voices I'm hearing? Because, if you were to tell somebody that, most people are looking at you like, okay, John, whatever you say, man. Well,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. But, I mean, you're not the first psychic I've had on the show. You're actually the third one. So this stuff, it's so fascinating to me, though, because, like you said, I know you mentioned past lives. That was one thing we did talk about with one woman I had from the UK on. Me and her were talking about that, but I think it's so fascinating, honestly, that you're seeing these things, because I've had dreams before where it's like you feel like they're so real, and then things start happening like deja vu. Have you had that happen to you before?
Oh yeah, definitely. It happens a lot. For me, sometimes I will get. I'll see future events. Also, what I've realized is that part of my mission on this planet is to actually observe and report, which kind of fits in with the whole police thing. Observe and report, and so it's like I'm almost like a reconnaissance type of person on the astral plane. So. Back in 2005, I remember I was in a dream, and all of a sudden I found myself on a beach. Actually, I'm sorry, it was 2004. And I found myself on a beach, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. But all of a sudden, these two monsters came out from each side of me, and they walked right past me, and they started trashing the entire beach, buildings. They were knocking them over, throwing cars into the ocean. And I could just see the carnage. I'm like, what is going on? And when I woke up that morning, I was like, that was a really weird dream. I don't know what that was about. And I go downstairs, and on the news was the reports about the tsunami that had just taken place in the Indian Ocean.
Jeez.
So, yeah, and I was like, oh my God, why didn't I see that a week ago? I could have, I don't know, maybe I could have helped 300,000 people. But that's not my mission. It wasn't to see that future. What I was shown was I traveled there, through the astral realm to observe it and report back to the galactic. Essentially, there's like a galactic council that I have a parallel life on, and it's essentially sharing Earth events. And then sometimes they'll have me like travel astrally as well and provide like healing on the planet, or I've even worked as a soul guide for somebody else, for some kid. I don't even know where the heck he is. He's somewhere in the I don't know, he might be in the Midwest or something. But I've actually performed as like a guide for him, and who knows how many others I just don't remember while I was in the astral state.
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. Most people who listen to this are probably going to be like, well, what the hell is he talking about? Because it all makes sense to me, because the young lady the lady I talked to when originally got into the topic, she had said she had found somebody all the way in Canada. Mind you, she's across the pond. She could tell you the exact location of where this person was missing at and what was around them. So, like, to me, I'm just like, this is so cool. Every time I meet somebody is a psychic of some sort, it's so fascinating to me, man. Like, I'm so enthralled. Like, you don't even know. I love these kind of interviews because you get people on here, and the things they're telling you it's just not unbelievable to me at all. Because, like I said, she was doing incredible things. The other person we had on was Gloria Bettini, and I were on. We were talking about, all that kind of stuff too, because she had is it the Ashtic, right? Is that how you say it?
Akashic
records. So is there a difference between the Galactic one and just the Akashic one, or is that basically the same thing?
So I see them the same thing. When I say Galactic Akashic Records, it's more of like an intention. I call it going off planet and going to the Akashic Records and looking at those, on different planets, whether it's in Lyra, Pleiades, Sirius. What happens for me, though, is I can sense people's energies off of them. And then I can also, I can sense their galactic. Sometimes I can see their angelic roots. Some people are incarnated angels, and that's where they started off. And then others have more fairy lives on them. So has anyone ever told you have like a Bigfoot energy around you? Like, I don't think you're an incarnated Bigfoot, but I just see him like off your left side right now. Like he's like over your shoulders.
Dude,
he's
kind of
like your
John. You don't even know.
Yeah, bro. He's like your bouncer. He's like that right now on
so. I've been doing a lot of self-discovery since the beginning of this podcast. I've done the the birth chart readings. I do have somebody coming on to do human design with me as well, and I've started learning different things. So like me and Carmen Turner did the birth chart reading. We did my actual birth chart reading. You can see it, and we talk about each house. But then when it hits anything, I've got a lot of stuff. So this stuff's so fascinating to me. And I know one woman we were talking to, I can't remember her name now, the woman from the UK, she said that in a past life, I was somebody's like advisor, is what she said. She had a feeling of, that I was an advisor. And then like my words were never being heard. That's why now I'm a podcaster now, because now people can hear me. And I was like, well, that is true, though. You think about it. It's like I've always wanted to do a podcast. It could be a reason why I really wanted to do it. So, and it's always been fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not picking up much galactic on you, which is interesting because usually the people that I'm working with, they have a lot of galactic lives. You have more elemental, more fairy lives. I believe that as of right now, what I'm seeing is that you're more of an Earth soul, and it's actually what we call it is Earth seed. So you came from Source, part of like the Earth group consciousness to come here and incarnate solely on Earth. So a lot of those were, more elementals, fairies, or just humans, sometimes animals and objects as well. But I'm just getting more of like an Earth energy off of you with a little bit of elemental. Like I said, you got like Bigfoot is your bouncer, like he's your gatekeeper in you. But what I'm getting is like your mission is to bring like a knowledge. And you call it peak versus anxiety. So it's almost like all these like different things that, I'm getting, it's like a therapeutic, this has been like very therapeutic for you, but what you're doing is you're representing yourself to the whole and helping others with their anxieties, those who are silent about it, those who have buried it in them. And you're bringing it out through your own, and you're assisting others. So you're helping them with the awakening process. Granted, you don't have, not all of your shows are about psychics, of course, but you are helping with the awakening process, because you're helping other humans, other, even star seeds, as well as, elemental and fairy beings out there as well.
To be correct, you've never watched any other episode before this interview, correct?
No.
Just so everybody knows, I want to let you know how accurate this man is. Directly on, dude. I am shocked. I'm stunned over here. I was like, dude, as soon as you said it's a therapy show, I'm like, John, have you been watching, or are you reading my mind, man? Because it has been, honestly, since day one to now. The evolution of Pete is happening, as you all can see as it goes. Like, I dug into energy a little bit too, because I did have an energy healer on. And it's something big I was into, because I sense energy. I can feel it. And I have the ability that I can sense it, where I can feel it. Like, if I don't like somebody, I know I don't like them for a reason. I couldn't tell you why, but I can tell you I don't like their energy. And then I also have the ability to read people. I can read a lot of times when people are in a really bad mood. Like, I can just say a few things. And if somebody says something to me the wrong way, I can pick up on the tone and like, hey, what's up? Are you good? Everything okay? Things like that too. And then this other thing I discovered when we did the birth chart was that she said that I have this uncanny thing where people come up to me and tell me things that they normally wouldn't tell people, which has happened several times. And I was like, this is crazy, because Harmon and I had never met before that interview. And when she just said that to me, I was just like, oh man, you were reading my mind. Just like just now, I was like, damn, John, are you reading my mind, bro? Like, hold on, because it has been, man. It's been a therapeutic journey. And it really is the mission of the show, is to pretty much give people a voice. Like, I bring other people on, different professionals. I actually have a girl coming on later today is going to tell her story too. And a lot of people, when they come on, they're really nervous. They're like, God, I'm like, listen, I got you. Don't worry. If I wasn't such a good host, trust me, this interview would go bad, but I've got you. I've had some crazy situations, and I've heard some of the wildest stories you could probably think of that have happened while recording this show. But it's been fun the whole way through. I've made some new friends along the way and things like that too. And I'm just fascinated, dude. I'm like, gosh, this is so awesome. So let me ask you though, you went from Marine to officer to filmmaker. What made you change? Was it because your psychic ability, these voices, the people coming to talk to you, were they the ones directing your path? Like, hey, John, this is for you, man. You need to go do something different. You have a bigger, higher calling.
And that might have been part of it, but it's interesting. I've always wanted to be in the military. Like, from childhood, I remember as a kid, like, I don't know, I was wandering around the house at like 5 years old, and I found my dad's like Army uniforms. He was drafted in the Army. And I don't know, maybe they were throwing them out or whatever, but I found them. I put them all on, and I like went to his room and showed him. And he was like, I thought that was me growing, when I was younger. So I always wanted to join the military, and always wanted to be a police officer. So I was just driven to those. Now that I realize, and then once I was in them, I was like, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. But I understood that both of them needed to happen. They needed to shape my life. So I talked a little bit about parallel lives before. Now that I know that many of your listeners might not all understand about psychics, and not too much. So real quick, our soul can fractal, essentially break off into multiple lives. So in this specific timeline, we call like 2025 right now on Earth, some of us have multiple parallel lives around the planet. That's essentially our soul is splitting off into a separate consciousness, a different person. So I have a few people, a few parallels on the planet here in the United States, elsewhere in the country. I also have a couple of galactic parallel lives too. One is he's like some special forces guy. I call him Derek. That's easiest name for me to do. So he's like, just call me Derek. He's off doing work on like the Orion, fighting the Orion Empire. He's done stuff with that. He's on special ops missions. So I think that part of it is that I could feel his energy even as a child, and I wanted to join the military, kind of like, in his footsteps in a way. And I have another guy, he's on like a larger council. It's more of like some secret galactic council or whatever, but their focus is on like Earth and Earth ascension and the security of Earth. So sometimes I'll get tidbits of his life as well. He's very serious. I don't know why he's so freaking serious, but he's very serious when I feel his energy. He says, call me Dave, so D-A-V. For some reason, they just realized that I am terrible with accents, and I'm terrible with like exotic names. So they're like, call me Derek, call me Dave. We'll keep it simple for this guy. So, okay, where was I going with that? So, okay, so I joined the military. I was in the military. I did not see 9/11 coming. I was in boot camp when it happened. Totally clueless until they saw it. And I just actually I remember we were doing a combat course in boot camp that day, and the sergeant's like, "Pay attention. You're going to need to know this after what happened this morning." And we're like, "What the heck just happened?" And they're like, the 2 towers are gone. Pentagons have been hit. We're at war. I'm like, oh crap! What the hell did I do? What did I get myself into? And then, down the road, a few years, I'm in Iraq, and I remember having this dream that my squad was sent in. It's called a Quick Reaction Force, or QRF. Our squad was sent to assist another squad in our platoon that got hit with an IED. This was all in a dream. Yeah, this was in a dream though. And I remember their vehicle got hit. It was like an amphibious vehicle, and hit with an IED. I walked in there, and I could see them all dead, like all mangled, destroyed, all killed in there. And I just remember it was so visceral, like that. I could just feel like it was real. So when I woke up, I was like, "Oh my God, I hope this doesn't happen." Later in the day, another squad in a different platoon was hit with an IED. And the squad that was going to go out and get them jumped in the amphibious vehicle. Is the same one that I saw that was all killed in my dream.
Yeah.
And then we were the next ones that were going to come up and help them if they got in trouble. And I was like, oh my God, this is all happening like it is. I was like the whole time freaking out, to myself that, all my friends, like 12 friends, are about to get killed in an accident or in an IED attack. And I'm going to have to be one of the ones that finds them. Turns out they took a different route than they were supposed to. They took a different route, down a different road, and they were able to get to the 2 Marines that were injured by an IED, and they saved their lives, and nobody died that day. And for the longest time, I was like, I'm grateful, of course, that they survived. But I'm like, what did I miss? How did I miss that? Why did this happen? And it wasn't until I started on this journey I realized there's multiple realities that are taking place at the same time. So what I saw was an alternate reality. John was in an alternate reality seeing this, and this conscious reality essentially swapped realities to the universe where nobody died that day. Everyone survived, because that John would not be the same person he is today, that I am today, if he had gone through seeing all that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I know that's
it makes sense, dude. That's just crazy that's what you saw, though. I mean, like, you're panicking. You're like, oh God, we're going to the same scenario. I'm going to see the same thing. Like, especially seeing the bodies mutilated, because we've had a Marine. Actually, the first person I interviewed on the show was a Marine. It's funny enough that you're a Marine too. He had actually went into combat. He'd been there 20 years. His Humvee got attacked. The whole thing flipped over. Like he described it, the whole thing flipped over. He was out cold for like 5-10 minutes. Had to get up and act like everything was okay, but he really wasn't. Now he deals with severe PTSD, TMI, and all that stuff. Or what is it? No, what is it? Traumatic. TBI, traumatic brain injury. Sorry, my bad. Wrong acronyms. But yeah, he can't even go to the store to get milk without struggling to come back and just being wiped out for the day. So for you to make it through that situation, it's great, man. It's just crazy. So what led you to be a police officer, though, man? That in itself, I think not enough people talk about their mental health, because the things those guys see on a daily basis is just horrible.
Yeah. I think I saw some meme or something the other day, not like the funny meme, but like one of those random serious memes. Yeah. That was like, police officer, or like most people will see about 8 traumatic events in their life. And like, I think police officers will see like 80,000 or something like that. Again, same thing. I always wanted to be a police officer. It was my friend who, I'm still friends with since we're first grade together. We've both wanted to be in the police department. So, if anyone's familiar on the East Coast, there's Ocean City, Maryland. I was a seasonal police officer down there for a summer, and then I deployed to Iraq. And then when I got back, I finished up school, and my buddy had just gone through the police academy in D.C. In Washington, and he was having the best time of his life. He was like, he's like, John, hang out with all these people. I'm having a great time meeting like all these girls and stuff. And he's like, you got to get down here. You got to get. So I'm like, you know what? I got nothing going for me in upstate New York right now.
Yeah.
So I moved to DC, basically on a whim and hoping for the same exact experience as he had. Instead, I had the exact opposite. Like, I was like, oh my God, this place is nuts. Like, too political for me, too crazy. And I was like, I feel like I realized I wasn't making a difference. I really needed to make a difference, and I felt like that wasn't it. Like what you see in the movies or the shows where, Law and Order, where they help somebody and they get the bad guy at the end of the episode, like stuff like that. It doesn't always happen like that. I think I had like maybe one or two experiences where that felt like I walked away from a shift and was like, I feel better, that I was able to help somebody, or somebody had like, assisted, got what they needed today. I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. But when I was in the police academy, I started taking photos and videos of our class training, and where I was running around with like just a little camera. I run around and I would, we'd be like doing like baton training and stuff, and I would take the camera, I'd set it on like a mat, and then I'd run into the person, and so I was just thinking of all these different shots and this, visuals and angles, and I didn't really understand like why I was doing it, but I just felt like so inspired by it. And after a few months on the streets in the academy, or after the academy, I thought to myself, you know what, like it just doesn't feel like it's working out. Like I feel like I'm going to lose my mind on some of these people out here. Like I'm just not making a difference with them. They're wearing me down. My mental state is, being torn apart here.
Yeah.
So I decided to leave. I found the closest film school and I went to that. And, and for, near 10 years, I had a really prosperous film career. And, come 2020, like I was looking at finally having probably one of the best film careers of my life, like where we had just filmed like this really cool reality show pilot, all tactical stuff and everything. We're going to do additional documentary episodes for an agriculture documentary that I did, and I know it kind of sounds a little on the boring side, but it was actually a lot of fun. Went to Africa, I went to India. We're planning on going back to Africa. Yeah, it was really cool going into these like 1,000-year-old temples and stuff, which I didn't appreciate at the time, but now I would love to do it again. But so anyway, like I just had like this great career, this great lineup of 2020 ready, completely clueless about what was about to happen. And funny enough, in January, right at the end of January, we had just wrapped up my son's birthday party at like Chuck E. Cheese, and I started to feel like off, like really, like I hit like exhaustion and just felt like really sick. And then for 24 hours, I was down. Like nobody else got sick, nobody else was sick, and I was like, what is going on? And then a couple months later, like pandemic. The pandemic hit, everyone got sent to their rooms without, dinner, and we're all grounded for like, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months. So, and that's when I started to feel the disconnect with filmmaking, with life, like trying to understand what my purpose was. And so what I have come to realize is when I got sick back in January of 2020, that was actually kind of the start of my spiritual awakening. What happened was I shed what's called spiritual veils. So these are kind of like, almost like these like energies that you incarnate with, and they're meant to come off and like almost like a dirty blanket or something, like blanket, like come off of you, so you can see more clearly, so you can feel more, so you can have a closer connection to your own psychic abilities. So in 2020, that was like the first layer of veils that I shed, and it was pretty violent. It took a couple of days for me to really get readjusted, but that was the start of my spiritual awakening. So a couple months later, the pandemic hit. I'm questioning everything, and then a comes the dark night of the soul. You've probably heard of that term before. And that's essentially, it's like, essentially everything gets stripped away from you. You know, a lot of like belongings, physical, your emotions, you're trying to understand. And the idea is to strip away all those other identities that you've had all, you know, throughout your life and make you question everything. And it's hard. It's called the dark night because you really have to face your shadows and what, you know, and come out on the other side, and it makes you stronger. So I started to go through that, divorce, kids hating me, you know, moving into from a house to, it was actually a haunted apartment. We can talk about that if you want, but just had to go through this, and then I decided, filmmaking career, pretty much near dead, and I figured out, what am I going to do with my life? What am I doing? Until I had a psychic reading for a birthday present from a friend, and she was a tarot reader, and she stuck up this card in my face, and she was like, "You could be doing this. You could do this yourself. You're a psychic," and I knew I was a psychic, but I didn't. Until that moment when she put that card in my face, I didn't realize, like, wow, I really could be doing this. I could do this and help others with it. It gave me purpose, finally. I was looking for purpose. I wasn't sure what I was going to get from it. I didn't even know if she was real or if she was a fraud. But I realized, like, she certainly was the real thing. And she was meant to give me a purpose in life, a new purpose, and help me out of that dark night of the soul. And that's where I went with it.
That's so awesome. Dude, that's all. It's funny you say tarot cards. So I think a lot of people, I knew in the 90s when I was a kid, I thought they were just a novelty item. I didn't realize how powerful they are until I met my wife. And when we were dating, she had did a tarot card reading for me, and she was so spot on. I was just looking at her like, what the fuck, dude? This is crazy, because it's like you're reading my thoughts. And, and Catherine does the oracle cards for me too, a lot of times, and spot on. Like, one of them, she was giving me hell about. She's like, "Oh, you need to stop drinking all these energy drinks and go to bed. You're tired," is what the card had said. And I was just like, dude, are you here with me right now? Are you like, I'm holding the drink in hand, and I'm like, the fuck? I feel like I'm being called out, because it's so crazy. Because, Catherine's all the way on the other side of the world. I'm here in the States, man. And she's literally calling these things out. And this is probably the third time I've had somebody actually do an oracle reading on live. When we were live on the video together, we were talking. Cool. Leslie Turner and I did one, and she was more fascinated about me. So she just shifted the interview. She's like, no, let's talk more about you. Let's stop straight away. Yeah, come here. And then she started looking through stuff, and then the cards that were falling out, one was wealth, something about, oh, you always have money when you need it. And then I can't remember what the other card was, but it was so like, it was just like, whoa, hold on. This is crazy. Because before that was the second time I've ever experienced the oracle cards. Catherine was the third experience, and all of this is so fascinating. So what are you up to these days? So what are you doing now? Are you using the cards and doing all these different psychic readings for people? Like, you've got to have some good stories or some very interesting experiences. Have you run into any like evil spirits somewhere? Because I know when you start dampering in that kind of stuff, you got to be careful, because you don't know what spirit's coming to visit you. So
this is the anxiety part of your podcast, isn't it? This is when you're like, I had a feeling you're going to ask this, so maybe I'm psychic. I don't know.
Sounds like it's coming. I know it is.
So I still play around with the tarot. That was kind of like my introduction, So I bought a couple decks, and they're it's addicting. I got 5, I think, and I've stayed at that amount. But I play with them a little bit. I'll do readings for a while. I like getting readings as well, but mainly what I've been doing is Galactic Akashic readings. That's where I started my business. So, looking at your Galactic Akashic lives, your Galactic lives, looking at fairy lives. When I was going through the learning process, I started to essentially attune to the Akashic records.
Yeah.
You probably heard the attunement process with like Reiki and stuff. Well, there's one with the Akashic records. I didn't realize what was going to happen, but I found myself like essentially frequency hopping, like going in between dimensions while I was asleep. And then I could feel it in like waking meditations as well. And then I started picking up on people's energies. And I was like, I'd walk into a room and be like, why am I feeling that person's from the Pleiades? That's interesting. Why is that person from Sirius? Why does that person look like a lion right now? All these different things. Like, why am I seeing Bigfoot over somebody's, shoulder? So those like things started to happen. And then one night after I finished up my training, I was asleep and I found myself on it looked like a training simulation. There were thousands of people in front of me, and they're all walking around and stuff. And then I found myself in like a dark alley. And I'm like, oh boy. And this silhouette like came in front of me, and I could tell that they were familiar to me, but I couldn't see them. I wasn't supposed to see them. But as soon as their silhouette came in front of me, I started seeing these I get flashes of their galactic life and their Akashic records. I'd get a download immediately. So I'd see like they were Syrian, they did this, first incarnation in Vega, all the way back to their first times in the galactic realm, and then somebody else they'd disappear and another silhouette would come in front of me. Same thing, downloads. So I started to realize, okay, this is what's happening. I'm in a simulation. So I took control and I started bringing people that I knew in front of me, and I popped in front of me, and I got, okay, I got this. And I realized, where am I? What's this happening? And I got a message saying, you are on an Arcturian training vessel. And we were showing you what you're doing. This is essentially your graduation ceremony. So I said, okay, this is awesome. I want to go meet the Arcturians. Take me to the leader. So they took me into this room that looked very much like the Starship Enterprise transporter room. But instead of like them transporting in, it was more of like a holographic imager. And they essentially... they came in as a holographic image. I think there was two of them of these Arcturians, and they started speaking to me. And essentially, what they're telling me is like, you don't need a special prayer process, because a lot of Akashic readers will use like a pathway prayer. They said this is like the new version of Akashic reading, where you just receive instant downloads about people's lives.
Yeah.
And this is what you have to do on this planet. This is what you're a part of. And then I found myself back in bed, and it was just a very, I don't know, it was just a very interesting process of.
Oh, I believe it. Trust me.
So.
I think we're beyond interesting at that point. I'm more fascinated because that had to be the strangest feeling in the world. You're just all of a sudden awake, but you're not awake. You're like in this weird plane. All these people are there, and you're like, whoa, what the hell is going on? This is like, it had to be intense at first, because then you're like, oh shit, what is going on, man? This is, and then you start little by little getting an idea of what it is, and then you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense now. So that's just like, wow, dude, I'm so fascinated. Like, that's so cool.
Well, yeah. Well, the crazy thing is, at the time I thought, okay, this is everybody training on the planet right now with me. Like, I'm a student among thousands. What I didn't realize it, sometimes, as you could tell, it takes me a little while to figure things out. It's a Marine in me, I guess, hard-headed. But I didn't realize until earlier this year that those people that I was walking amongst in that astral state, those were people I actually have soul contracts and soul agreements with, and that they're getting turned, essentially, like they're awakening by me talking to them. So through the podcasts, all these different interviews, the people that are going to come to me for an Akashic reading or a healing or an activation, who's going to be students working with me, in psychic development classes, and whoever else for the rest of my life. These thousands of people, essentially, I had contracts and soul agreements with. They were students and psychics and teachers, but those are people that I had connections with. And that explains why they were all human in that simulation.
That's so fascinating. I'm just like, John, just don't stop talking to me is what I'm thinking in the back of my head. Like, well, just keep telling me more. But that's so cool though, man. Like that, like I said, just for you to get to that level and to see those things, man, most people start panicking, or they'll think like aliens abducted them, or something like that, Yeah. But it all makes sense to me. Like, to me, it sounds all normal. To most people, it's like, whoa, what is he talking about? Like, but to me, it makes sense. Like I said, the interactions I've had with other people and other psychics I had, so all this stuff makes sense to me. And I've always been fascinated, because like past lives came up. What you were saying, soul contracts came up as well in a conversation we were having, and things like that too. And it's just so fascinating. And then the energy thing makes perfect sense too, though, man. How you're just seeing people for what they are. It's blowing my mind, man. Literally, it's just so cool to hear all this, because I'm just like, this is really cool, because now somebody at least understands what goes on in my head sometimes. Like, it's like I said, I have the ability, I can feel people's energy. I can sense it. I just know if I don't like somebody, there's a reason I don't like them. And I get this like bottom pit feeling in my stomach. Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't like you. Or I could read through a lot of people's bull crap, A lot of people start saying things to you and you're just like, makes sense. But people think that you're believing them, but you're really like, yeah, okay, can you tell me a little more so I can tell what's going on here, and things like that too. So that's so cool, man. Like, you have any really wild stories or anything that's happened while you were doing any of those readings that you can tell us? Obviously we don't want you to.
Yeah. Leave out names and stuff. So
yeah, definitely.
Interesting enough, it's gotten to the point where right after a reading, unless like some wild stuff has happened, I usually forget nearly everything from the person's reading, and I feel bad about it. But I understand it's not my information to hold.
Yeah.
It's not my energy to hold. It's theirs, so they keep it. But I always say, like, what did we talk about? In the reading and stuff. Like, I've received messages for people before their readings, and I've said something for them, and then weeks later we'll have a reading. We'll actually have the reading together, and I'll say, oh, I saw you with the Syrian life, and they're like, oh yeah, you said that in the email. I'm like, oh, I did? Oh, okay. I don't remember. So I tend to lose this stuff now, but some wild stuff that has happened. So I can remember the last couple of weeks. So one person, he was very interesting. He started stuttering in our conversation, in our session. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, oh my God, he's not possessed. I don't know if I can deal with that yet. But he just said, no. I've been, I've always stuttered my entire life, like really bad. And I was like, okay, it's all right. Let's see what we can do. So we just we did a healing. I just went like top to bottom. I tend to do that with most people when healing is called. And we go through, and I can't even remember what we did. I think there was some barriers, some blockages up on, through the crown chakra, some healing that needed to be done through the throat chakra, of course. There's a couple other things that we did. We had like an hour and a half session. This was like 10 minutes in that we did this healing. He stuttered once the rest of the time. Only one more time he stuttered throughout the whole thing. And the whole time he was like, oh my God, I thought I was going to stutter through that. And he didn't. I was like, holy crap, like, wow, I did something there. Actually, I remember I want to email him and see how he's doing, and see if that's still, if his stutter has come back or if it's not. So I told him he had to do some work with it. But so stuff like that. One person. What I do is I tend to do like a little meditation and connecting to the person's energy right before the session, and I started feeling like an ache in my heart right before. I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't think I'm having a heart attack, am I? Well, we get on with her, and I could feel it's like, oh my gosh, it's her. So I told her, look, before we started, it had like a this heart break and all that. And she's telling me like all this, sad stuff that's happened in her life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, no wonder why your heart's hurting. So we did like full body, like through the chakras, cleansing the energy system, healing, like really had to dig out like the heart chakra. There's a lot of stuck energies that we had to pull out. Like I was sucking it out on one side while pulling it out on the other, like getting really the back end of her chakra like cleared out. When we got to her root chakra, it was like cracked in half. It literally looked like it was broken in half, and there was no energy coming through it. So I was like, okay, you need a chakra replacement. This is crazy. Like I had one done. I blew my root chakra like a couple weeks prior, and my mentor had to fix me because I just blew a bunch of veils again and was like nearly, I felt like I was on my deathbed. But so she's like, you blew your heart chakra, you got to fix it. So fancy enough, a couple weeks later, I'm doing this same thing with somebody, and I haven't had to do it ever since, and it'll probably be a while. But I just felt it fascinating that I had like replace her root chakra. I'm like, okay, let's go. Where am I getting this from? I don't even know. Like, is there a chakra depository or something? And I got this message saying you were going to give her a Pleiadian root chakra. I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm giving you a Pleiadian root chakra. So we dropped that into her energy system. We got everything working properly, made the adjustments, and she's been doing well ever since.
Dude, that's so fascinating.
I originally thought I would just be doing like, oh, this is what you did in this life, this is what you did in that life. But then people started coming to me looking for healing, for actual guidance. Like, what am I doing in my life? What are my clairs? What are my abilities? Seeing, people. I've had clients activated for like Reiki and different energy healing modalities that they had in a previous life by their previous incarnation. Okay. So what I do is I'll bring forward, like if they had somebody like they were a shaman in Vega or a shaman in Sirius, or whatever, some healer on Sirius something, I would bring that incarnation forward, like energetically for them, and they would connect their heart chakras with each other so that they can essentially transfer that energy. This happened actually a couple weeks ago with one lady. She was all fairy. She was like, I forgot what she was, like 68% fairy in her energetic DNA. And I was like trying to get off the planet to check out her galactic records. And I just kept getting like, nope, you're staying in the fairy realm with this lady. So I was like, okay, they're not even letting me off the planet. So I'm like, okay, let's explore your fairy lives and maybe they'll let us off the planet then. So I got these two different fairies that showed up. It was like a tree fairy, like a tree elf or something covered in like leaves. And then the other one was, I don't know, like kind of like the little Tinkerbell type.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Okay, yeah.
So both of them had healing modalities and they wanted to activate these like energies within her. So it's like if you talk to somebody about Reiki or something, Reiki, you have all these symbols. Well, this lady had symbols in her system. I think I actually drew it. Yeah, I drew this symbol for her. It was like the first time I ever drew a symbol that I saw. And I was like, this is the symbol that they're giving me. It's in your system already. It's just not turned on. So your incarnations from the fairy realm want to come forward and essentially activate this energy within you. And that's what they did. We did a whole activation, and then they finally let me off the planet for one.
See, my question was going to be is why they wouldn't let you off the planet? Because I know you said that the fairy was an Earth, right?
Yeah,
was Earth, right? So maybe that's why at first it wasn't. Maybe they wanted you to learn something from the fairies, and then you could go. It was fascinating when you said that, because I remembered you had said that, and I was like, that's the first time I've ever heard that. But I'm so fascinated now. So like, let me ask you the all important question though. If somebody's more interested to know more about this kind of stuff, where should they go? What do you reach out to you if they want, or?
Yeah, please do. So galactic-guidance.com. That's my website. So I have more about my bio in there, a little bit more about me.
Sounds secretly a double agent. He just isn't going to tell y'all.
Possible. So I have I channeled through galactic history.
Yeah.
So if you want to know more about like galactic history, you could go through. I have different. I can't get every race. There's so many out there, but there's a whole bunch of different ones. Like the main players: Lyrans, Pleiadians, Syrians, Arcturians. At the bottom of the page of the galactic history, I have like a few different other races that I've been learning about through the record. So there's some interdimensional warrior race. There's the Polarians from Polaris. And then there's these etheric squids that are really interesting. And I started seeing them a few years ago during my galactic awakening process. And I didn't really say anything about it until I started talking to other students and other people who were going through their own awakening. And they're like, I saw these squids or these etheric, like octopus-looking things. And I was like, oh my God, you've seen them too. So they're out there. They telepathically communicate with people. That's really interesting.
You know, it's funny you say the octopus thing, because I did an energy healing session, and there was an octopus that was attached to me from somewhere else, and that was causing a lot of problems for me. And I didn't know. And when we were doing it, she had told me about it. And I was just like, this is so fascinating, because I'm like, she's like, there's an octopus. It stuck to you. And that's what it was representing. I was like, oh yeah, it's like stuck from you from another past life or something. I think that's what we were talking about. But it was so fascinating, because I was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, and I remember hearing about an octopus type thing showing up. So
Yeah. Well, these guys don't, they're not, I haven't come across them as like evil or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
just more about that they are, they're these just like high dimensional etheric beings that they don't do like, you know, face to face exploration.
Okay.
So they kind of just float around in the galaxy and they explore through telepathy. So they kind of like breeze past a planet and they just reach out to like the star seeds and they want to see like, and that's how they learn from us, is by seeing like kind of just dipping in our vision and seeing like, oh, how are you learning? How's things going on your planet? So that's just how I've seen them as explorers essentially. So I don't know, let's see, what crazy things. Oh, there was one lady a couple of weeks ago. So I looked into her, and as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh my God, she has some gray alien issues.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's not incarnated gray, not a Zeta or whatever they call them, but I was like, I could just tell, like, she had some serious gray energy. I'm like, do I tell her? Do I not tell her? Some people freak out with that stuff. I mean, it's the freaking grays. So we finally get to that part, and I'm like, okay, look, what I'm seeing is like you have these like they look like cords or like cables that are like coming out of your back right now, and they you know, and they're from this past life with the grays. And she's like, oh my God, every time I do like energy work, or sometimes I do energy work with people, I get this like debilitating pain in my back. And I was like, holy crap. So I figured out what was going on. So she had a past life as a Pleiadian, but in this life she chose to be a bad Pleiadian, a pirate. She was working as a pirate with like these grays, and her job was to come to Earth, like ancient Earth, and essentially like help abduct and kidnap humans.
Yeah.
For dissection and all that. Because she looked human as a Pleiadian, she would entice like the humans, you know, to be like, you know, to come onto the ship and all that. So she would help with that. Well, eventually in that life, she got tired of it, and she started to feel really terrible that she was helping these grays like kidnap and, you know, harm and kill humans. So what I saw is that she escaped through like a shuttle pod, like flew off to the Galactic Federation, turned herself in, and then the Federation essentially trapped the Greys in the atmosphere and arrested them for interfering in Earth, you know, on Earth. But because of that, she still had these attachment to the Greys.
I love it. That's so fascinating, man. That really is. So, John, as we start getting ready to start wrapping up here,
Sure.
I have two questions for you, okay? So
Yeah.
I've asked every guest on this show ever since I met a woman named Gretchen. She runs a podcast called The Shit That Goes On in Our Heads, okay? So her question to me, and my same question to you, is, John, if your mental health had a song, what would that song be?
If my mental health had a song, what would that be?
Yeah. What's the first song that comes to mind? You can use the first one that comes to mind as soon as you hear that question, or is there just a song that really just explains it? It's always fascinating to hear people's answers to this question. We've had one woman come on and say Rage Against the Machine, and you never even noticed it was her. She's like, you're going to make fun of me. And I'm like, why? Because she said, well, I chose Rage Against the Machine. I'm like, okay, that works too. Hey, listen, whatever works.
You know, I would say Kashmir, Led Zeppelin.
There you go.
That's always been my favorite song. And then I was listening to it not too long ago, and one of the first things that was Robert Plant says, I am the traveler of all time and space. And then it clicked for me. Again, it took years for me to figure that out. It clicked for me. A traveler of all time and space, the Akashic records, and you know, the travel that I love to do in this, you know, in this incarnation, physically and on the astral plane, in the Akashic plane, essentially just says it all.
You know, follow-up question though, do you think maybe the Led Zeppelin song is what led you down that path? It was your first sign that you're going to do something very different in the future?
Maybe on the subconscious level.
Maybe, you know,
Yeah.
I was thinking that too. I was like, maybe that's, you know, now that when you explain all that, I was like, yeah, maybe that's what it was. Maybe that was your first sign you missed. And it was like, all right, you got to go through a little path, and then this is where you're going to end up, kind of thing. So that's really cool. So my second question for you, and I ask everybody this, is if you could break the stigma about anything you hear about mental health, what would it be? Anything from your own personal experience, anything that you just want to debunk out there for people, like, hey, stop doing these things.
You know, I don't know about debunking. So I took a little quick turn in my life during my dark night of the soul spiritual awakening. I moved to Hawaii for like 2 months and then promptly moved back to Virginia. But while I was there, I was actually working with a friend of mine who's a psychologist. So he works with in the mental health profession. And one of the things that we did was he wanted me to help him with was something called neurofeedback therapy. So since you talk a little bit about mental health and everything, I realized like that is something like that is such an amazing tool. Obviously, I don't work with it anymore since I'm not in Hawaii anymore with him. But I just saw that the help that can do for people, and realizing, especially in the United States, that so many people are untreated, and whether that's talk therapy, art therapy, neurofeedback, any type of therapy out there, like so many people are just untreated because either there's still the stigma about it, which I think is starting to get better, but there's still, there's still a lot of people out there, but it's very cost prohibitive. And I think about how many lives could be saved, how many people could just be assisted, and how many people would not be in prison right now, who'd be still alive, or whatever else, or not just be suffering if this country actually had a better viewed their mental health and physical health in a better viewpoint. Like,
definitely,
it's insane that therapists don't even bother with health insurance anymore. Because it's such a pain to deal with the providers.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I agree. Well, John, thank you so much for coming, man. This is great. I had a freaking blast. Do you want to go ahead and plug where anyone can find you? I know you plugged the website. If you want to tell them again,
sure.
Do you want to plug any of your socials? You can plug any social medias you're on that people come check out your stuff. I know you're on Instagram for sure.
Yeah. So what am I on? I'm on TikTok and Instagram. I think it's Galactic, or is it Johnny-Galactic for Instagram. I think I could send those to you so that you can put those in show notes.
Yeah,
if
definitely,
you have them.
definitely, yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. So I can definitely tag you when I post videos and things on there too. Well, guys, we're gonna wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. Once again, John, thanks so much for coming. It was great. And as always, I'm Pete vs. Anxiety and X all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify all the way down to iHeartRadio. And as I always say, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you could do can save someone's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health today?
It's a sign of respect, that's an ice for death, but never dive into price for checks. I got my integrity and my word. I'd rather die than let them burn. My respect you'll have to earn, but I don't think I wait my time.